Yeah. Anyway, but your player is you swept Boston, right?
Yeah, I think so. It happened in the middle of the night. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah, yeah.
wasn't watching live. I just woke up and saw
Yeah, I was awake
their
because of
first
the
L.
Philadelphia 76ers game, but it was so pathetic. I just kept the side eye on. But let's jump straight into it. Welcome to 5 of the week, where we actually kind of have like 5 topics. Uh,
Bit more than 5, maybe.
yeah, +6 in brackets, but yeah, like we were just touched upon, was on the top half of the SBA playoffs bracket in season 62, the Oklahoma City Rampage played against the Minutemen, who survived the bye round and promptly swept the Minutemen 135-95, 132-94, 123-86, and 129-120 in game 4. So it wasn't close for almost any of the series. In the final game, the deciding game, Ekstrom actually played 47 minutes, so it was like, yes, that's close by a sweep standards, but so far, your player average 31
He
points.
played like shit, but it's fine.
Yeah, win is a win.
Yeah, I have my superstar teammates who have like 70%.
Yeah,
So
Omar Bull
so far.
making a return.
Well, but he's doing fine. But I think like we're out of playoff leaders. When I just glossed over it in the morning. Yeah, here Oleg with 70%, Zeke with 68%, and Leon with 66%. So could have worse teammates
Yeah,
in
definitely could
terms of
have, like I did.
hitting the.
Yeah.
And how satisfied were you with the playoffs?
On a personal level, very satisfied. Actually, I played up to the standards of my TP level. Um, would you say so?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
we just
So Kuli
fucked it
had a
up.
good. Yeah.
So on the
I
most important aspect, which was team success and championships, we definitely didn't do very well. But yeah, finally got some bang for my TPE buck. Unfortunately, the past 2 playoffs were 7 games last season and 6 games this season. Whereas if we played upwards of 15 both these seasons, I could have had like 95 to 100 playoff games played. But it is what it is, really.
yeah.
I'm already looking forward to my next player because that was not very pleasant. And yeah, speaking of which, I was very happy to. This is a spoiler for the next 25 to 30 minutes to draft my player, Johannes Trindl Andersson. Actually, it's Anderson because I think the RP is meant to be like it's an American Anderson because it's not a Scandinavian Anderson for sure. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's what we're gonna talk about pretty much this week about the season 63 SBA entry draft because we're right on time for once. Usually, we've done recordings early in the week where the draft is not yet occurred, or then it's already too late, or like 2 weeks too late, or 6 weeks too late. If we're being honest, so yeah, in the other series for the SBA playoff semifinals, the Chiefs actually upset the Miami Vice, which was it wasn't like too out of the blue for me, but I certainly thought the Vice were a better team than the Chiefs. But I like Chiefs in 7. I could have given that a more than a 10% chance for sure. What do you think about the Chiefs? Um,
I honestly did not expect them to beat Miami at all. But hey, here we are. I won't complain. Uh, would have been nice to get some revenge on Miami for last season, but well, now the Chiefs have to hold up.
yeah, and the team to upset the Aviators on the other side of the half. Obviously, the Ravens went. clean through to the semifinals 4-0 against the Prowlers. But the Montreal Monarchs are back to the SBA semifinals. Yeah, I think with their players, Marshall, Buckets, Thorn, and upcoming, it could be argued that they actually had a better team than the Aviators as well. It's not like
Yeah, it's a more well-rounded team for
Yeah.
sure. So
yeah. So like people were treating it as a complete surprise. Well, not all the people, but the presenter and the Montreal players and stuff. But yeah, I would have still favored Charlotte there, but Montreal has some very good players and well-rounded players as well. Blade Thorn maybe
definitely.
has still some growing to do, but was excellent in the series, and that's what counts in the series if you're excellent in the series. Yeah, so it's Rampage versus the Chiefs in the semifinals. So Nepto versus Isaiah Redding, and then it's Monarchs versus the Ravens. Do you think it'll be OKC versus Houston in the finals? That seems like
I would say it's the most likely
yeah,
the series, especially after you look at the regular season. I mean, Ravens and Rampage were above everyone else in terms of point differential and wins
yeah,
for pretty much the whole season. So it's the most likely thing, but we shouldn't be too sure of ourselves. I mean, the Ravens can be. I'm quite confident that they will reach the finals and probably a gentleman's sweep or something like that. But
yeah.
don't get
Both
too cocky.
teams had 4-0 second rounds compared to their opposition being lower seeds and having a 7 and 6 game series. So all signs point towards Rampage and Ravens being heavily favored on talent. So yeah, I guess that's gonna be in our future this weekend. I would be
What do
very
you make?
happy. Hmm?
What do you make of the chatter of people hoping, praying, whatever, that the Ravens won't win this season?
Who's hoping?
I've just seen it a bit in the Discord today when I skipped through it during work.
So what do I think about people turning against Brooklyn
Yeah, not against Brooklyn, but saying okay, the
or
Ravens
Houston?
going to win it, aren't going to win it this season. Do you think that's in the cards or?
Well, them losing is definitely on the cards, I think, but I just don't like. It seems like something that's talked about every season, even when it's not very likely. Even when they're going up against some team with a 50% net differential of theirs, like if they have a 22 plus and their opposition has 10.7 plus, and still they somehow try to create the narrative around the wow, this is a very well balanced matchup, and then Houston wins in 4. Yeah, I think it's interesting. People always, obviously, like for the fact that they participate in the SBA, they want something interesting. So now I would say these are two very evenly matched teams, like comparable to like in the when way back in season 42 when it was Ravens against the Thunderbirds in the finals. Those teams were very well matched. Then in 44, it was Ravens against the
Isn't it like
Nightmare.
43 or 44, the two 74-win teams
Yes,
going at it?
yeah. But we haven't had playoff series like that in a while. Like I think last season the Vice were like, I well, I can't go back on my word now, but I think I called them like sort of fraudulent a couple of times last
Yeah,
season.
I didn't expect him to do as well against the Ravens as they did.
Yeah, and it's like the wins that they had last season. One of them was I think was quite evenly matched because Thompson was from the bench in that series, right?
Was he?
Yeah, I think he was off the bench in that series. So like
I didn't follow
the
too closely, I must admit. Yeah, he
yeah
was. Yeah,
yeah.
you are right.
So in the close games when the margin in the final 2 minutes of the game, or I think it's 2 minutes of the game is closed, then the game defaults to your starting lineup, even if you set your starters to play 0 minutes. So in those situations, like you had Swiss Army Knife playing instead of Grant Thompson. So like if Thompson was playing in the game 6 game, which ended up 170-119, then they might have just won it 4-2 and could have blamed the 2 losses on large foul trouble for Muad'Dib in the first or second game, at least the first loss anyway. And then it would have been more sort of a standard looking season in retrospect, but we like to keep it straight, the record straight here. Yeah. But this season, I think a 4-3 should be more likely than it was last season. And if it were to be Rampage versus the Ravens in the finals, like this season's Ravens maybe are a more
I don't know.
top.
Maybe I think next season's Ravens may be vulnerable, but I don't want to to be too optimistic.
Yeah, but they are well rounded out anyways, with 3 and D and King and Muad'Dib having very high TP numbers. Next season will be more like, I guess, optimized because they'll have savings in their salary brackets with the regressing players and stuff like that, or one regressing player, I guess. But
Yeah,
anyways,
I
yeah,
think we will come around to this 40 preseason
yeah,
edition, more or
yeah.
less.
So the SBA entry draft was underway on Tuesday. It started on Tuesday. Mexico City picked first, and they selected Elena Rossi with their first selection. What did you make of or who was the top prospect if you were picking as Mexico? Pretty much a clean slate with near to no one on the team, or as to be on the team. What did you think of the Rossi pick?
I think the Rossi pick was expected, at least on my end, given that Mexico had 2 big men locked into place and of the high end guys, especially the recreates. Rossi was the guard that hadn't told publicly, I will only go for myself and leave your team if I don't see it fit. So I think
Hmm.
it was a logical choice, and I completely agree, especially given that Beo and Trap are not unfamiliar with each other
Yeah.
from Arizona or even the administrative tasks around the site. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good match for both sides.
Yeah, and I think they were. Well, actually, not. No. Anyways, Diego Rossi was drafted before Troy Simmons, so they weren't like compatriots in that sense. But yeah, they both have a very long standing in the SBA and have done a lot of work together, I suppose. So yeah, it made sense as a pick to me. Obviously, in a similar vein, my player also would have made as much sense, or Molhod's player.
On a clean slate, I think they would have made sense. But in Mexico's situation, you don't need another big at first overall. If
mm,
you already have Dusty, you have Kidams, Recreate, I forgot the name. So you still have 2 bigs that
Hashimoto.
are a couple of years on the roster,
Yeah.
and as long as you don't want to part with them for whatever reason, it would be stupid to stack another big
Yeah.
onto this.
Yeah. I based on my talks with Beowulf, I expected that it was still likely that I would be picked first, but well, not likely, like not the most likeliest outcome, but still a decent chance of something happening there. But because there was such a large swath of people to choose from for the first overall, you could
Mm.
actually like make the case for positional need and if you could promise me that you'll sign a 3-year extension and stuff like that. So you can take that more into account if you're picking first in a sort of a stacked top-heavy draft like this. Second, the Atlanta Vipers selected Dogwood Maple. Do you think Maple was the, well, not to say the correct pick, but the best player available to complement Ragnarok? Goliath is the GM's own player, or do you think they maybe could have done well to go with Clue Golem or Abiola?
So I think between Maple and Clue Golem, well, Clue Golem is also quite active. I think Maple is the one that impressed more with his activity, especially in his freshman season, which is why I still had him on the radar. But I was still surprised that Goalie reached for a first gen at the second pick here, despite all the recreates, especially also the big man recreates that were on the board, namely you, Kelts, then even Mo coming into the fold. So there were a couple options to choose from, and he decided on the first gen, which can pay off very well. I mean, Troy Simmons was also a first gen pick that was picked first overall, despite many recreates around him, and he turned out quite well. So I think this could be great. They have now their big men do lockdown, and as we know, big men are key in the SBA at times. So it's exciting. What do you think?
Well, I think it was surprising that the messaging I got from Goliathus was, no, I'm not particularly looking at your player, is what he said. And then I accepted that quite straightforward, as maybe he wants a player who's eligible to play guard, which makes sense. But then to pick Maple, it was actually surprising because his player has the same positional eligibility as mine, and also sort of on the same build path. So I just found it very surprising, and I'm not one to like ask for an explanation on this because I'd much rather have my own player at third. Spoilers, double spoilers since we already spoiled that before. But yeah, I just like there was some conversation between me and someone that that
And he's gone.
yeah, for a player like Dogwood Maple would become, it's easier to guide them to become the player you need, and B, just become a great player if they don't have preconceived notions about what they want to build already. They probably have some preconceived notions from, I think, Maple played for the Cockerels, or yeah, with there's something already built
You
there.
should know you are coaching the team they're going up against.
Yeah. But I said I think, and I knew, so I know. But yeah, there's obviously a build pass set somewhere in there, but yeah. Whereas for me, I wouldn't have taken like build advice from Goliathus at all because I just like to do my own player. So
yeah, maybe that's a factor as well.
yeah.
Someone who is willing to buy into the system and
Yeah, quite the system out there in Atlanta, by the way. The AP levels of the players currently on the roster 500, 400, 300, 200, 200. Yeah. Maybe the process is still getting on its feet. Yeah, at third, then I picked myself, which was very good. A couple of people reached out to me and said they found myself very lucky to have picked myself in a time of complete GM untethering. Do you think it was especially lucky, other than jumping a couple of spots in the lottery, or like picking a player of Trindle Anderson's like imaginary value at third seems quite reasonable, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's particularly lucky that you got your own play in terms of the value. I mean, there were a couple of other prospects that could have gone before you, that could have gone after you. So I don't think it's extremely lucky. You just were in the fortunate position to have a lottery pick and have it jump a couple of spots to be high enough in the lottery to select yourself. That's all the luck there is to it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I aimed for it and it happened just the way I imagined it happening. Not quite number one overall, and also not needing to trade any future assets or current assets to trade up for first overall. So it was like a dream come true in most aspects, because now I can have a really good time for at least 8 seasons more as the GM of the Pittsburgh Ironmen and as Johannes. Yeah, Johannes, just for anyone watching, sort of a standard two-way, maybe leaning a little bit more towards offense and no passing, power forward slash center compared to
No
Talibakili.
passing.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna take it to
Ooh.
50 at some point, but not early.
An Oko pick without passing. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Uh, anyways, the glue glue golem was picked for to the Toronto Thunderbirds. Golem is also a power forward slash center, right?
Yeah, he's
Yes.
also power forward slash center.
Yeah. So he's also quite similar, as in that he has some sort of a fouling attribute, steals and blocks to 70 already, decent athletics and inside scoring. So it's pretty much like we've drafted multiple of the same players in a row, only that I had carryover and they did not.
Yeah, and you had some rebounding mainly, I think.
Oh yeah, I also have 75 offensive rebounding, whereas they don't, any of them. This is at the point where it's interesting that players like Leslie Burns, McGriff, or Abiola weren't picked, and Golem was picked instead. It's not entirely understandable to me why they would prefer this power forward slash center player with none players on the roster, pretty much, other than Polyronidis to go. Why do you think they went with Glue Golem instead of Leslie Burns or McGriff, especially?
I mean, my best guess is either he really liked what he saw from Golem in the interviews, that he assumedly did, or he was unsure if Mo or Kels would like to play on his team and didn't want to risk picking them highly and then watching them go in free agency. Essentially setting its rebuild back further. But I don't know why he instead went with some of the other high recreate options. I mean, there were still plenty on the board. So there's just speculation.
I also just then, when I asked you the question, I thought of another potential aspect of it, that maybe Sid and Shindigs know each other from somewhere else already. Because
That could be
Sid,
maybe. I think he's a VHL guy.
yeah, because Sid is and has been in a million different sim leagues, so there's the possibility of that. So maybe he likes Shindigs or has met him before and prefers his company to Mulholtz rather cagey company sometimes, or Kelsier's rather, well, just company, I guess. So yeah, there's something to that as well. Yeah, but yeah, it's a power forward slash center player, and you could easily build around them for the future. So even if they don't have the 80 recreate carryover, so yeah, it's not a bad pick at all. But just wanted to get some thoughts on why, especially this pick here. But then Mexico win the lottery double time after winning the lottery for Elena Rossi. They also pick Marshall McGriff straight to the draft by Moholt, and Marshall McGriff looks to be a quite
all around forward, I would say.
Yeah, offensive forward player with a lot of scoring potential in the future. And I think McGriff fits perfectly on the team, not only in terms of position, but for the future of just the three of them being together and working together, BO, Moholt, and Trapag. It seems reasonable that this would last for at least 4 to 5 seasons, if not 8 to 10 seasons, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, the admin team memes are always there, but if you don't pick the admins, and the admins can grab themselves at whichever draft spot.
Yeah, and they never win.
Team, then they will do it.
Yeah, the last time they won was like in 2018, so the memes are not quite the same any longer as they used to be. So yeah, good for them really, because I think everyone is quite happy with this outcome if Toronto doesn't have any buyer's remorse later on Glue Golem, but I don't think they will, because it's still a good pick for where it is at 4th. 6th, the Las Vegas Jokers select the final piece of their Infinity Gauntlet after years of, well, quite nothing other than high lottery picks. They now have a starting 5 of sort of young prospects, but Draco Corleone is already at year 5, so it's sort of accelerated as well. But Corleone is more of a utility player, I think, if it's the same player I'm thinking of. Yeah, and known for rebounding and assists rather than actual like superstar production. But yeah, Fela Abiola out of Thunder Bay Resistance, point guard, shooting guard, very productive season this season in the regular season of the SPDL. Obviously, I take much pride about enabling my guard players, even though it's by accident. It just happens to be that way. But Abiola, even when he was filler capped, looked like one of the 6-7 best point guards in the SPDL, even though he was playing off guard. And now in his uncapped season, pretty much just continued on that path. Very high inside 3-point shooting, passing, and quickness. I think steals as well. Yeah, steals at 80 currently for this week. So I don't think there's any problem with that. Maybe it's lacking on the offensive end to play with Corleone and Iguodala, but
I think it's a calculated risk for the sake of team management. I think offensively it's fine.
yeah,
Just dump the ball to Fox and Morales. They both want to score in bunches and did so last season. So let them do their thing. And I mean, it worked for the Ravens for a while now. So why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if they both score 40 points, then you only need to find like what is it, 36 to 45 points out of the other 3 players.
3-point shooting from the rest.
Yeah, should sort of be manageable. This sort of team kind of reminds me of the Milwaukee Maulers team I played on with McMahon and Jack Straw and Freedom myself, where we had a lot of specialists and not a lot of like build cohesion. But this time the power forward and center position occupying players are both offensive rather than defensive. So it takes care of the problem where your all defensive player of the year has to score 20 points against his will. But yeah, it's just interesting. Guard defense, I think, it only goes so far. So you also need to have a very strong interior defense, or much rather would have a strong interior defense rather than guard defense. But it
Though at the same time, scoring bigs are mostly succeeding more than scoring. So
yeah, yeah, but yeah,
let's jump
it's
forward because time is slipping.
yeah, yeah. Especially for those players, or especially for those reasons that you mentioned, you need interior defense because interior bigs
Yeah.
offensively are successful. Arizona select Ralph Walters, another a recreate player by Crazy Ralph, point guard slash small forward this time. Do you think that's a interesting build, or is it more of the Clyde Alexander variety?
Not the Clyde Alexander variety. It's not a score first, pass first, or general offense first guard. More of a distributor. And I'm not sure if it's what Arizona needs right now. To be honest, I don't
I
know
think
what
they
Arizona
just
needs
need
at all. This
anything.
team is a bit in the midst of a weird situation.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I just think they need anything, and if they thought Walters was the best player on the board, then that's just fine. Yeah. Then at number 8, the Milwaukee Maulers select Leslie Burns from Fort Lauderdale Lightning.
yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Three,
Where
three
else?
Lightning players in a row. So Ralph, Leslie, and then
Yeah. Where else would Kelsier play? I guess. Leslie Burns, another power forward slash center player. Offensive, defensive, who could tell, just a two-way big with a lot of potential to grow as a recreate and a light blue username. Milwaukee's general manager, not on the finest terms, or I don't think Kelsier holds Milwaukee's manager in the highest regards, but I guess that's beginnings of a beautiful working relationships with a underrated,
like someone to work with. So
yeah, underrated good player in the draft, and taking a chance of them, that's a good start, I think. Yeah, like you mentioned there at 9, then the Mexico City Ocelots finished their draft with a third player as Terrence Woman. I guess that's how you'd pronounce it, Woman.
woman,
Is it just woman?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know if
Woman.
it's to be a play on Terrence Mann. And I never asked Terry.
Oh, right. Yeah, because Terrence Mann is also yeah. Anyway, a standard shooting guard slash small forward, and yeah, some offensive potential. The user Kerkils, I think, had one or two other test players in the SPDL because I remember his username from like early winter, and if he's only now graduating to the SPDL
Yeah,
or the
he has
SPN.
won shooting guard of the year already from his second season. So
Yeah.
maybe he gets a second one this season, and hopefully off to a productive SBA career with the deep and young Mexico City team.
Yeah, and with Vlatko Pejic eventually going out the door, there's a lot of room for the young players to grow in the starting lineup, or at least get some minutes. Doesn't even need to be growing. Then the Milwaukee Maulers at 10 select Dirk Decker, and I think, yeah, point guard slash shooting guard player by the user C Tots. Also a quite similar player to the other ones, whereas you have just some playmaking, some shooting, and defense. So I figure Decker will go in the mold of Walters, pretty much, like comparable to Walters, just lacking on the TP front compared to Walters right now.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a defensive-minded guard, and there have been worse archetypes in the league. Being a former defensive guard myself, so can definitely work out.
Yeah, it's very popular right now. Like we talked in some of our previous episode, I can't remember exactly which, but like 4 episodes ago now. Then with the 11th pick, the Philadelphia Browns select Jason McGilligan by Wallflower, another guard eligible player with a similar but not so similar profile to um, Decker there, whereas McGilligan has perimeter defense in 70 and steals only at 55, whereas for Decker it was pretty much in reverse with less perimeter defense and actually like I think it was 80 steals already. So
Yeah,
it's a similar sort of player, will fit in a rotation quite easily because there's no immediate weakness. That's the key point of a player like this. Because you're small, you can't do as much because you're small. So just maximize your effectiveness early, and then in time maybe grow up to be less small, even though you're small. That's pretty much like Maeda and dozens of others grew up to be. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Because we talk about players like these each season. Then with this 12th pick, Arizona selects Horace Hellshield. What do you think about Hard Rail's new player falling all the way to 12th?
I mean, I never really got to experience him, if that's the right word, because when I joined, he was already gone.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I think he has a very offensive-minded build.
Yeah.
So no defense on there. As well, reminds me a bit of Landstriker, if you remember him from Panda.
Yeah.
Was pretty much just all offense, and it didn't quite work out the way you would like it to see. So I think he still has the tools to, yeah, or the caps more or less to become a two-way player, good one. But I'm not sure how to value him in terms of activity and development and etc.
Yeah. I think what happened for Landstriker for a while there was that he prioritized rebound attributes over like post defense, perimeter defense, steals, and blocks, which in terms of the value numbers that we have, like PER and value added, that's in the game, and then the other metrics that we use created by others and people on the site, that rates a player very low because you can only cap out at what would it be 10.4 rebounds per game, even if you tried your hardest to get the attributes high, whereas if you're at 0.7 steals and 0.3 blocks per game and you have 10.3 rebounds, you look bad compared to someone who has 8.8 rebounds but has closer to 3 steals, 3 blocks. But yeah, Hellshield has the option to have like 99 steals and blocks with his cap, so there is something there. Yeah, I think it's a very good pick, and I think some of the teams above will could be in ruining their decision making later because not all of these players that are currently on the roster are gonna last anyways. At 13, we have another recreate player who maybe went slightly too low, but there's also reasons for it. Casper Morgan was selected by the Brooklyn Bullets. What do you think of Morgan as a player so far? Only at 329 TP as we speak, so what's
I'm
the
a bit,
word on Morgan?
shocked how low KCCO is in terms of TPE, despite being somewhat active over affiliate stuff. I mean, the build could be better, could be worse. There's some nice defense sprinkled on there, some rebounding, what you love to see as a GM from a rookie, but also a lot of insight for basically no athletics, which ends to or leads to bad shots taken. But there's a lot of TP left to be applied. And who knows? I mean, if KCCO stays active, then that's certainly still a great value at what 13th pick.
Yeah, I see the logic behind what's happening in the build here. So maybe it's not just built for the first 2 seasons of SBA. maybe it's more for the entire career, be it in terms of numbers or build sequencing. But yeah, I pretty much agree with you there that it takes some trying out to see what you can get out of a player like this early in their career, and probably will be minimized in their role. And so far, and pretty much in completion, the final player to be selected in the SBA entry draft is by the Oklahoma City Rampage, almost and Thunder, is Tom Taylor II. And out of, once again, the Thunder Bears listeners. Yeah, I would describe his career progression in terms of play and statistics the same way I did for Abiola earlier. In the first season, very potent showing, especially a tendency to just blow up in big ways to shoot 7 or 8 threes and make 6 of them. But then also just by virtue of carrying the ball around a lot and looking to score a lot of turnovers, maybe not the highest field goal percentage inside the 3-point arc. So, and carried that on to his second draft season with much more responsibility on him and dealt well with it. But like I think, I'm not sure if that was on the record, but said earlier, already only at 265 TP by the time of the draft. So quite low earning in terms of TP there for a couple of weeks. Do you think Taylor was like a player like this who only likes to earn sort of development, activity checks, maybe here or there, 3 times a month, let's just say? Do you think we have a place for players like those? Obviously we do, but in what sort of caliber?
I think with the shrinking cap and the shrinking activity in general of like super max guys that earn 12 every week that we have seen in recent seasons, I think guys that only in quotation marks earn like 6 TPE every week are incredibly valuable nowadays because you can't have a team full of 5 max earners. You will lose some of them to the cap.
Yeah.
And so having someone who plays in his role and really a role player as the NBA has them can be incredibly valuable. And these days, if Taylor becomes one of those, I don't know since he hasn't updated for so long. But we will see.
Yeah. Yeah. Post knee surgery, Wesley Matthews has had a lot of success, arguably a lot more success than pre knee surgery Wesley Matthews. So certainly have a place for players like those who have a decent build for what you can get out of them, or that you can get a lot of out of them for the price you pay for them in the salary cap. So I'm wishing the best of luck for Tom Taylor, and I hope Tom is not losing interest by moving on to the SBA. That will be pretty harsh, and especially for you also, as he's bound to be your teammate, I think.
Was he active throughout the last couple of weeks?
The couple of weeks, no, not necessarily. Like on the
like
side of
room.
May.
I know he hasn't updated, but
yeah, on the side of May, no, I don't think so. But in April, still yes. I guess I could see if he was active in some other league or VHL, I think. But that's none of my business. So he can just do what he likes.
Yeah. Just want to know if he's maybe
but not
has
on
active in the locker room, but didn't.
Yeah, not in May.
Okay.
Yeah, that should wrap it up. Now, Neto wants to go, which is his right. So we tried to speak faster, but we still managed not to speak fast enough. And Neto is now enraged and wants to participate in the 5 of the week universe no more. So
some things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, tomorrow will be a shit day.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to you packing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this sort of a sports TV show. Let's just do quick hitters on all the draft players. more than nothing. I guess all content is better than nothing. So give feedback if you listened. If you didn't listen, well, you're not gonna hear this anyway. So thanks again for listening, and it's a goodbye by me, and thank you to Nepto as well.
Yeah, thanks to you, and see ya.
See you in the next episode. Not gonna say next week because